Welcome to our channel. Today, we delve deep into a story that underscores the incredible power of words, the speed at which social media can magnify a single moment, and the real-life consequences that can follow. Our tale begins with a high-profile morning program, often praised for its no-holds-barred discussions and unfiltered political debates. Hosted by Paul Danning, a seasoned journalist known for his confrontational style, the show had garnered a substantial following over the years. Before we dive into every shocking detail, make sure you hit that subscribe button to help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. And if you enjoy in-depth stories about real-life controversies, smash that like button to show your support. From the get-go, this morning talk show established itself as a battleground where prominent figures, politicians, activists, and public personalities were invited to face tough questions. Audiences tuned in daily, expecting fireworks. Paul Danning, with decades of experience, had developed a reputation for pushing his guests to the brink. Viewers appreciated his ability to ask the hard questions others might shy away from, but that same eagerness to press for answers would ultimately become his undoing. Paul Danning, at first glance, seemed unflappable. He had covered countless political controversies, interviewed heads of state, and even reported live from active conflict zones. His background in investigative journalism lent him credibility and a certain edge that distinguished him from more conventional TV personalities. He prided himself on being fearless, often describing his program as a last stand for unfiltered truth. On the other side stood Donald Trump, a man who needs little introduction. Having been at the center of national and international headlines for years, Trump is no stranger to high-stakes interviews or contentious debates. Whatever one's political leanings, it is undeniable that Trump's presence on any platform guarantees a significant viewer spike. People tune in to see what he might say or do next, and this morning interview was certainly no exception. When Trump agreed to appear on Paul's show, both the producers and the viewers expected confrontation, passionate arguments, and potentially controversial statements. What no one foresaw, however, was just how far the tension would escalate and how catastrophic the fallout would be for one of these men. From the moment the cameras started rolling, the atmosphere in the studio crackled with anticipation. Paul, determined to make the most of this high-profile guest spot, launched a conversation with pointed questions about media bias and allegations of misinformation on conservative channels. Trump, never one to remain passive, countered by listing multiple examples where mainstream outlets, in his view, had either selectively edited his speeches or outright ignored certain stories that would contradict their preferred narrative. As the debate continued, the back and forth between these two strong personalities was intense, but still within the bounds of a typical high-energy political interview. The viewers got exactly what they came for, a rapid exchange of arguments, each side insisting on its version of the truth. Millions of people watched live, some cheering Paul's direct style, others applauding Trump's refusal to back down. However, what started as a robust debate quickly veered off course. Midway through the show, Paul appeared visibly exasperated. He leaned in close to Trump and said, "People like you are the reason this country is so divided. You push this phony victim narrative, pretending conservatives are being silenced, when in fact you're the ones shutting down opposing voices." Trump calmly responded, "Excuse me?" Then Paul went a step further, seemingly letting his frustration guide his words. He declared, "You act like free speech is under attack, but what you really want to control. You and your people are consistently." And that phrase, "your people," hung in the air like a lightning bolt. There was an immediate shift in the studio's energy. Crew members glanced at each other nervously. Producers behind the camera seemed taken aback. Trump raised an eyebrow and asked, "Would you like to clarify what you meant by your people?" The tension soared to new heights. Trump supporters watching at home felt that Paul's comment was targeted, almost prejudicial, while others interpreted it as a critique of Trump's political base. Paul, realizing his possible slip, tried to cover up, saying, "Don't play the victim here. Donald, you know exactly what I meant." Instead of de-escalating, he doubled down by accusing conservatives of fueling division rather than progress. It was a broad, sweeping statement that left the audience stunned. As soon as the show cut to a commercial break, shortly before returning for a final segment, Clips of Paul's remarks exploded on social media. Users on Twitter, Facebook, and various other platforms began circulating the 15-second snippet in which Paul said, "Maybe if conservatives spent less time playing the victim and more time actually contributing something to society." Without context, it looked even harsher. The internet lit up with accusations, defenses, and hot takes from all sides. Hashtags like hashtag cancel Paul Danning and hashtag Trump was right trended almost immediately. In parallel, a counter movement sprang up, with some people claiming that Paul's statements were taken out of context and that viewers were missing the lead up to his remark. Regardless, the damage was done. The digital wave was unstoppable. Within the hour, the show's executive producers started receiving emails, phone calls, and tweets from sponsors anxious about the negative fallout. The line between accountability and cancellation was blurred, and Paul found himself right at the center of that storm. One of the most striking aspects of modern media is how swiftly sponsors react to public relations crises. By midday, 3 major advertisers had publicly announced they were suspending their association with the morning show. More sponsors followed suit in a domino effect, citing concerns about brand safety and negative audience perception. The network, watching the situation unfold in real time, faced a tough choice: defend Paul, one of its longest-serving hosts, and risk further sponsor exodus, or take decisive action to mitigate losses. Initially, the official stance was cautious, announcing that the network would conduct a thorough internal review of Paul's on-air comments. However, in the court of public opinion, especially when fueled by social media, time is a luxury. Pressure mounted from every direction, including from longtime viewers who felt offended or disappointed by Paul's choice of words. Meanwhile, individuals who opposed Paul's termination argued that a single slip during a heated exchange shouldn't cost him his entire career. The debate about cancel culture flared up once again, with people split over whether Paul should face severe consequences or merely issue a public apology. If you're finding this story compelling so far, consider subscribing to our channel to help us reach our milestone of 1,000 subscribers. We bring you in-depth coverage of real-life events, unravel the truth behind viral scandals, and share lessons we can all learn from. Your subscription helps us keep producing content like this. While all of this was unfolding, Donald Trump's reaction was notably measured. His team posted a brief statement on social media, emphasizing that language matters and that public figures must be held accountable for their words. Trump also retweeted the viral 15-second clip of Paul's remarks with just a single emoji, the thinking face, which said enough without adding more fuel to the fire. This tweet alone garnered millions of views, further amplifying the controversy. Supporters of Trump felt vindicated, claiming that the host's comments revealed a deeper bias. Critics, on the other hand, argued that Trump's retweet was a strategic move to keep the focus on Paul and not on any of Trump's own statements. Regardless of the motive, the retweet ensured that the topic remained one of the most discussed issues of the day. By the end of that same day, the network announced Paul Danning's indefinite suspension, pending further investigation. In corporate speak, that often signals that executives are taking a wait-and-see approach, gauging how the public reacts. But the reaction was swift and unforgiving, with more sponsors pulling out and social media commentary growing harsher by the minute. The network felt it had no choice but to protect its brand. Less than 24 hours after the original broadcast, a final statement was released. Effective immediately, Paul Danning is no longer affiliated with this network. We thank him for his years of service and wish him well in future endeavors. That was it. A career spanning decades was over in the blink of an eye, undone by a moment of anger on live television. The swiftness of the decision left many stunned, including those who believed Paul's comment had indeed been offensive but still felt the punishment was excessive. The fallout from this incident wasn't just about Paul losing his job. It reignited a larger conversation about cancel culture, free speech, and accountability. Some people argued that Paul's firing exemplified how toxic cancel culture has become, citing that a single offhand remark shouldn't overshadow years of dedicated work. Others contended that what Paul said was indicative of a deeper bias, suggesting that he held prejudice against a certain group of political believers, which, in their view, justified the termination. On talk shows and opinion columns, experts discussed a fine line between legitimate criticism and hateful rhetoric. Paul's fans tried to launch online petitions demanding that the network rehire him, pointing out that cable news is often filled with heated, polarizing debates. They asserted that punishing Paul this severely would only lead to more self-censorship among journalists who fear the repercussions of speaking candidly. However, Paul's critics maintain that singling out your people in a disparaging way was a clear breach of journalistic integrity. They believe that the entire premise of balanced journalism erodes when a host openly dismisses a political or ideological group as unworthy or non-contributory. Meanwhile, the network's ratings took a brief hit. Some viewers who supported Paul threatened to boycott, while others tuned in just to see how the show would handle the controversy the next day. The new interim host emphasized a commitment to respectful dialogue, attempting to reassure advertisers and audiences alike that the network was actively working to rebuild trust. 2 days after his firing, Paul Danning broke his silence. Standing outside his home, he addressed a group of reporters. He began by expressing regret about how his words were interpreted, stating that he never intended to demean an entire political demographic. Yet, he also insisted that the outrage was disproportionate to the slip, attributing a significant portion of the backlash to political opportunism. He acknowledged that he was under intense pressure during the interview with Trump, attempting to challenge statements he believed were misleading, but admitted he could have chosen his words more carefully. His apology, however, was met with mixed reactions. Some found it sincere enough, while others saw it as too little, too late. The entire incident became a case study in journalism and media ethics. Universities, news outlets, and commentary channels use it as a teaching example, showcasing how a single phrase can overshadow a broader conversation and potentially end a career. In panel discussions, experts highlighted several lessons. Language matters. In a polarized era, words carry immense weight. Even experienced professionals must remain mindful of how their phrasing can come across to diverse audiences. The power of social media. Once a controversial moment hits the internet, it's nearly impossible to control the narrative. Viral clips tend to oversimplify context, focusing public attention on the most inflammatory phrases. Corporate and sponsor influence. Networks often respond primarily to sponsor pressure. In a short span, advertisers can force a major corporation to make a decisive call, sometimes before all facts are fully considered. Balancing accountability and overreaction, observers differ on whether Paul's firing was just or a form of oversensitive censorship. It's a modern reminder that the court of public opinion can deliver swift, harsh judgments. If you appreciate deep dives into these kinds of media controversies, subscribe now to help our channel reach 1,000 subscribers. You'll be the first to know when we release new videos on the latest news, scandals, and untold stories behind the headlines. Don't miss out on the conversations that truly matter. Since his termination, Paul has mostly stayed out of the limelight. Rumors suggest he may be considering launching an independent podcast or subscription-based streaming show, where he can speak more freely without the oversight of network executives. Some fans have already expressed a willingness to follow him, defending his right to free speech and praising his willingness to challenge powerful figures on any side of the political spectrum. Whether he will manage to rebuild his career in this new media landscape remains uncertain. Trust, once broken, can be difficult to regain, especially in the 24/7 news cycle, where each day brings fresh controversies. Yet, in an era where public figures and journalists can connect directly with audiences via social media platforms, there's a pathway for redemption and reinvention, provided one is strategic and genuine. While the immediate spotlight focused on Paul, the incident also served as another testament to Trump's ongoing influence over media discourse. Even after leaving certain public offices or stepping away from official duties, his presence still generates headlines and intense social media engagement. In subsequent interviews, Trump used the incident as an example of what he calls the deep bias in mainstream media, reinforcing his narrative that some outlets actively try to undermine conservative viewpoints. Whether one agrees or disagrees, there's no question that Trump remains a significant figure in shaping public discussions, as the repercussions of this particular interview demonstrate. The Paul Danning controversy highlights a larger picture, a deeply divided public that reacts sharply to perceived slights or attacks. In many ways, the story is not just about a host losing his job, but about the difficulty of maintaining civil discourse in an era filled with heated rhetoric. People are quick to take sides, especially online, where anonymity and rapid sharing fuel heightened emotions. It's also a reminder of the responsibility that media figures have in guiding conversations. When the host's personal frustration becomes more important than facilitating a fair debate, the entire purpose of journalism can be undermined. This story reminds us how quickly a public figure's words can backfire, especially in live broadcasting, where there is no second chance to rephrase or retract. It also invites us to think about the consequences of instant, widespread judgment in the digital age. If you found this video insightful, please subscribe to our channel and help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Your support means we can continue examining pivotal events, discussing their implications, and learning from them as a community. Also, don't forget to check out the car on your screen right now for our next story, a deep dive into another astonishing incident where a single interview changed someone's life forever. You won't want to miss it.